On the Track is a web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
So what's in today's show, Mr. John? Well, Hennis, the story of the Berlin lioness still refuses to go away. And so this week we have got with us, via Zoom, the one and only Dr Darren Naish, who by the time you're watching this will be in the middle of Tajikistan hunting for Caspian tigers and the ghoul. But today he's telling us how he was amongst the first people to point out that the Berlin lioness was porcine.
I really like the old credits.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's Saturday afternoon, it's 3, and that can only mean one thing. It could only mean that...
Amos, I believe you keep racing pigeons, don't you? I happen to do. I've got quite a few racing pigeons in the old pigeon loft. So these you take them somewhere and they'll come home again. Yeah, they're homing pigeons. They'll always come back up. And how do you train them? Oh, that's easy. Training homing pigeons is easy, you see. I take them to the south and they can't get out of the bloody shithole fast enough and get back to the north.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's Saturday afternoon. It's a normal day here at the CFZ as I have my leg up and the lovely Miss Isabel is doing arcane things to the stump of my foot. Yeah, look, I'll show you. If you look here on my iPad, I'm going to take a photograph of my foot. Miss Isabel, my foot. And you can see hello to the boys and girls is hello. You can see that I haven't got a toe. Well, it's not like I'm proud of the fact that I haven't got a toe. I've just not got a toe. It was cut off earlier in the year. It's neither a good thing, a bad thing, it's just a thing, and I am adjusting to living without a toe much more easily than I thought I was going to. But for some reason we've all gone down a rabbit hole about toes. So let me start again for the third time. Hello everybody, my name's John Downs. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to another episode of On the Track. Every Wednesday evening at 6:30 for about a quarter of an hour, and every Saturday afternoon at 3 for about twice that, we bring you a miscellany of hard science, weird shit, and surreality. What's surreality? Well, I think... But before we start the main crux of the show, and it's a very good show for you this week, I want to say goodbye to one of the CFZ family. Enid Rains, who was the wife of CFZ's stalwart Mark Rains, died a few weeks back by the time that you've seen this show. Yesterday morning, by the time that I'm editing it. And life is truly not going to be the same without her, even though she was convinced that the CFZ was a cult. And I don't know where anybody got that idea. But now, as alluded to earlier in the show when I was having a conversation with my poultry alter ego, I want to introduce you to our guest this week, my old friend Dr Darren
Naish. All right. Yeah. So I did. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, tell me about your pig adventures in Europe. Your.
Shall I just launch into it from the start then?
Yeah, your porcine revelation.
Okay. So I happened to see on social media, more or less as it became a newsworthy item, that this story about people in a suburb of Berlin, well, I was going to say claiming to have seen a lion, but that's not actually what happened. A video was shared with very little initial information. We don't even know the name of the people that took and shared the video initially, and it was circulating as this is a short video of a lion filmed in the of Berlin, and it was immediately obvious to me straight away that ain't no lion, and it's not a member of the cat family, and it's not a carnivoran at all. It's definitely a hoofed mammal, and I could tell that straight away through several prominent anatomical clues. If you step through the video, if you paused it in the right places, you could see that, okay, so it's a mid-sized quadrupedal mammal, and it's light brown in color rather than light brown in shape. And it's got large pointy ears, and it's got a slight convexity to the upper part of his back and its hips. It's got a tail that hangs straight down vertically, and is not as long as the hind limb, and the tail has a dark long tuft at the end. Now, when you say a long tail with a tuft, and when people are already thinking about lions, people immediately go, oh, like a lion's tail. No, categorically not like a lion's tail. A lion's tail curves away from the body, has a kind of like a sweep down towards the ground, is longer than the hind limb, and then has got a short dark tuft at the tip, as we all know. Whereas this tail is not as long as the hind limb, does not curve away down towards the ground. Like I said, it drops straight down, and then the black tuft at the tip is not like the short bushy tufted tip of a lion's tail, but instead is long and kind of beardy, not too different from your own, John. So I think this is a hoofed mammal. It's an artiodactyl of some kind, and my initial impression is that it might be a calf, a young domestic cow. But then you can see in the video, and for the context of the video, is that the animal is standing at the edge of woodland, which is adjacent to what looks like a paved parking area. You can see a curb. The animal, it's obviously filmed at night, and it's illuminated by the headlights of the car in which the people are located who are doing the filming. I thought, well, I doubt that in the suburbs of Germany there are cattle around, and if there are, based on the size of the vegetation, it's an animal that's going to be, I don't know, really roughly, I don't know, let's say 60 centimeters tall at the shoulders or the hips. If it's a calf, you would expect to see another cow, an adult cow. And wait a minute, there are lots of boar in the suburbs of Berlin these days. And I thought, well, that doesn't seem right for the tail. Don't boar have quite thin tails with kind of a bristly look to them, not a tuft? And as I had this thought, I looked to my right, and in my office here, and I saw this tufty tail that actually belongs to a wild boar, not from Berlin, but from Papua, New Guinea. It's actually part of a ceremonial dagger made of a cassowary leg bone. And I thought, wait a minute, it looks pretty similar to this long tassely tuft from a boar's tail tip. And so we've got a boar-sized animal living in an area where we know there are boar, and it's in close proximity to people. Obviously, people are filming it from just a few meters away. It's got ears that go to a point and are deep from top to bottom. They're not C-shaped or rounded or high up on the head as they are in a cat. The general outline is not, the body outline is not like that of a cat at all. The convex shape of the rump and the top of the back looks exactly like a boar. And the narrative that was shared about the sighting was that the animal supposedly had eaten a boar. And you don't see that in the video at all. You see the animal kind of like move itself. And if you've watched boar or domestic pigs, they really like scratching on tree trunks and other coarse vegetation. And it looked like that's exactly what it was doing. It looked like a boar scratching itself. And if they're saying that it's been seen, so there's no evidence that it's eating a boar. If people are saying that it's eating a boar, is that a confused or garbled account of they actually saw it with another boar or adjacent to another boar or with its head close to another boar? So I thought, add all these things together, and I'm really confident that I'm absolutely 100% confident that it's an artiodactyl, and I'm 95% confident at this point that it is a boar. So I took a couple of screen grabs. I traced the shape of the ear. I traced the shape of the tail. I threw all these things together, and I put out a quick article because I think that when I am confident about the identification of a mystery animal, if it's got any control over, the general public conversation, then it's useful to have qualified people who, I don't want to be arrogant, but I think I know what I'm talking about. It's useful to have them contributing to the discussion. And in this case, we had already heard even by the first day that I think 20th of July it was, even by the night, the police were investigating, people were being told to stay indoors. It's like, clearly the authorities are taking this seriously. They clearly have gone with the lion identification, and I'm absolutely confident that it's completely wrong. If there is a lion, it's got nothing to do with this footage, and there's no reason away from this footage to think there is a lion. So I published a brief article on it. I shared it on the website formerly known as Twitter, which I'm still calling Twitter, despite the wishes of a person. And got a lot of ins. I wrote the Twitter comments in German. I shared it, so that a lot of Germans would see it in their native language, and got a whole load of people who seemed fairly sensible initially, sort of agreeing with me and saying, "Oh yeah, actually now I look at it in more detail, it's obvious that this is right. And if you live in Berlin or this part of Berlin, there are loads of boar there." Had a minority of people accusing me of being, an idiot in very colourful language, or of saying that I was some kind of, secret agent deliberately trying to, keep the the truth about German lions under wraps. But by the next day, I was quoted in German press alongside 2 or 3 other people, hunters, zoologists, a vet, a bunch of people who basically were saying, yeah, it's definitely a boar, and this is why it's a boar. And by, I think, the 22nd of July, it turned out, unsurprisingly, we knew this already, but the bit of video that we'd seen was a segment of the video, and it wasn't the whole video. And 2 days later, we see the whole video, and what you see is the people start filming from their car. They're filming across a car park adjacent to this wooded area, and you see several boar running around. Like, no question about it. There's boar, there's young ones with stripes, and there's not particularly big, but there's young adults, and then and they're even right next to the car. They're literally like 2 meters away from the driver's side window. Actually, it might be the passenger's. side window because it's looking out the right window because it'll be a left-hand drive, wouldn't it? So there's boar running around in this car park, and then you get the bit where they zoom in where one of the boar has stopped and scratched itself on the tree, and it's those few seconds that became the so-called lion footage. And I also understand, and I think I mentioned this already, but the people who took the video didn't say, oh, we filmed a lion, let's release it. They released a little clip of their full video, and maybe they were economical with the truth, maybe they wanted to have a bit of fun, maybe other people thought that they had seen a lion, but this whole thing about it being a lion was never the identification of the people that took the video in the first place. So to cut a very long story short, wait a minute, to finish a very long-winded explanation, that's the way it panned out as I see it. And yeah, ultimately enough people who knew what they were talking about said that it's a boar, that it was case closed. Yeah, it's a boar. And obviously the police and anyone else who looked never found any evidence indicating that there ever was a lion. So it was a boar.
Do we know who the people were who took the original footage?
It's possible that is known online, and I haven't looked. It would probably take a bit of delving around in German websites, news websites, which I won't do because I know what happens when you try and Google things on the fly. I'll waste time.
Yeah, I Google things on the fly and end up going down so many rabbit holes. But now I was just wondering how the process worked that, and I'm talking sociology probably rather than zoology, how the process worked that a few seconds of blurry video suddenly get police shouting for lockdowns, and because I don't think that, and I'm not being racist, I don't think that would happen in Britain. I think if we had people going around, police going around saying, stay in your houses, there's a lioness, everybody would tend to get stuffed and carry on going about their business.
I don't agree. I think that exactly the same thing has happened in Britain. Exactly the same thing. People claim a sighting of a big cat, whether it has any merit. This case is relatively unusual because we have a specific piece of evidence that can be evaluated and still exists. Whereas for most of these kinds of stories, it's a claimed eyewitness encounter, right? It's somebody claims to have seen an animal, where it has been taken seriously by the authorities, presumably because they weren't busy for some other reason. It was reported to the right person. The political circumstances, the local political circumstances were right. Then there has been an armed response. So there was one. You will remember it was probably probably a decade ago now, where people claimed to have seen a tiger in a field. I got no idea where it was in the UK, but it was in the UK, and there was an armed response, and people were told to stay indoors. A police helicopter found the tiger in a field, and it was a large cuddly toy. So I don't see that as being any different from this particular case. They took it seriously, the police. Somebody among them, or maybe someone high up, obviously was themselves convinced enough by the footage to think, yep, that is a lion, we should take this seriously. And they didn't have the opinion of someone like myself or any of the other boarists, the other people saying it was a boar. They didn't have anyone there at the start telling them that.
For the record, although I originally thought it was a big cat, both Richard Freeman and V. McCrinnan said right from the beginning it was a pig. It has to be said, one of the reasons I did the show as I did was to be able to take the piss out of the German authorities.
That
You mean to say that you find something amusing about the German authorities?
Fair enough. Yeah, I could tell on very first viewing that the video was bad, but it wasn't so bad that you could tell that, like I said, A, it's definitely not a cat of any kind, and B, it's an artiodactyl hoofed mammal with a, yeah, like I say, ball being, your best bet. Although I was saying initially, I think my very first tweet, I said I think it might be a calf, a domestic cow, but changed my mind on that. Yeah.
Did you see the bit of the story when a local gangster got involved? The son of the local crime boss got involved and implored the police not to shoot it. And there were photographs circulating of the gangster with his pet tiger and stuff. That just
I did see that.
That's a brilliant story. And that just sort of muddied the waters further, didn't it?
Yeah, and again, that's not an uncommon component of stories like this. For whatever reason, maybe it's because it's someone who is craving the attention for whatever reason, or maybe it's someone who honestly is thinking it could be relevant to them. It's hard to say, but we all know of those cases where people claim special knowledge or involvement in murders and disappearances of people. It's I understand that happens nearly every time there's a murder investigation. So in a high profile story like this, which over those couple of days went viral, certainly in Germany and clearly elsewhere in Europe at least, it'll be ripe for the involvement of other people. And of course, we talk about stories like this. We in the UK talk about these stories being part of typical for silly season journalism. The Germans have a name for this as well, and I can't remember what it is. It's not silly season, but I think a lot of people would immediately roll their eyes and like, yeah, really, come on, this is just it's going to turn out to be, well, the same as is thought in this country when people hear accounts of wild living big cats in the British countryside. The people, it'll turn out to be someone's domestic moggy or someone's pet dog. I think that was the sort of skeptical response. But then you did have these lion truthers in the Berlin area who did think that we should take it absolutely seriously. And I think on the one hand, you do have a minority of people that say, wait a minute, if there is a lion, I'm not taking any risks because, I've got young kids at school. And I've forgotten the second point I was going to make, but yeah. Oh, you also, again, as is very familiar these days, you have people whose opinion is amplified due to the way social media works. People that normally would only have voiced their opinions to 10 friends now have their opinions voiced to certainly thousands and often more than that. And like I say, there were some aggressive people that told me that I was categorically wrong to be denouncing a possible lion. I should shut up and back down.
Did anybody come up with a convincing reason why you are working for the German Secret Service? I
get accused very occasionally of being a no, nobody did come up with a convincing reason, but I am accused very, very occasionally of being a paid shill, a paid government shill. So if that were true, and I'm not going to deny it, then I must be paid by one global government Illuminati type super overarching umbrella organization, which explains my comments not just made about British creatures, but those of Germany, the USA, and all other places around the world. So that's the only explanation.
Well, I've been accused of being a government agent. In fact, Andy Roberts and I were both accused of being government agents. Can you imagine any two people less likely to work for the man than me and Andy Roberts?
Well, yeah, but that's why you're the perfect sleeper agent, because you are able to convincingly just all of this like living in a small rundown cottage in a tiny provincial North Devonshire town is just a front, because we all know that you've got an underground base, access to millions of various denominations, and are actually incredibly on the button in terms of political shenanigans, and keeping those conspiracies under wraps. Yeah.
You are a very silly boy, Darren. You've been a very silly boy as long as I've known you, and now you're, however old you are now, you're just as silly as you were when I first met you and you were 18, so 17.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page and check out our Patreon.
And there's the ghost of Joe Strummer, who's an ever more regular visitor to my little house, will tell you. Don't forget to ring the notification bell, otherwise you won't be told when the next episode's gonna be. And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it? Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the end of another episode. I want to say a big thank you to all of you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. I want to say thank you to my guests this week, who are Richard Freeman, V. McQuinnan, Isabel Florentine, and of course Dr. Darren Naish. Thank you very much to all of you for your inputs, because I really, really value everything that you all say. I'll be back on Wednesday, and on Wednesday we're going to have a book review. And I'm going to be back on Saturday, and what are we going to have on Saturday? I haven't a bloody clue. But I'm trying to do this about 3 weeks in advance. I hope Richard and the boys will be back from Tajikistan, so I hope we'll have some sort of an update, if not a proper whole show. Then, as soon as possible in September, we're going to have at least one show about the Tajikistan expedition. We've got some shows that will have been recorded at the ASAP conference, and all the other stuff as well, I expect. So, thank you very much for watching. And are you listening, Mr. McQuinnan?
I am.
Will you be watching on Wednesday?
I will.
Because if you are, I'll be seeing you.